Hi, this is Usha. Welcome to Rathod's IAS classes. Today in this lecture, we are going to discuss current affairs of 8th March 2021. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss 7 topics which are very much relevant to UPSC. So let's get started with our discussion and let us see first article. So first of all, I want to wish you a very happy Women's Day. So I want to share you one quote that I liked much. Okay. So that quote here is, every woman's success should be an inspiration to another. We are strongest when we cheer each other on. So I like this quote very much. And this quote is very much relevant to this Women's Day also. So I want to share this with you. So now let us see some facts regarding this International Women's Day. So this International Women's Day mainly celebrated on March 8th every year. So it is a day when the world mainly come together to appreciate womanhood and their importance in our society. So the day also celebrates social, economical, cultural and also political achievements of women. So if you see theme of this 2021, your theme is choose to challenge. So it mainly means that challenged world, it is an alert world. So and from challenge comes change. So whenever there are many challenges, then only we can see some change that will be happen. So this is theme of this 2021, that is choose to challenge. With challenges only we can achieve change. And now we have to see why we have to celebrate. We are going to celebrate this International Women's Day only on this March 8th. So what is relevance of this March 8th? So when Soviet Russia, they gained right to vote in year 1917 on this March 8th. So because of this, March 8th mainly declared as national holiday for women. So here United Nations General Assembly also invited member states to proclaim March 8th as United Nations Day for Women's Rights and as well as World Peace in 1977. So because of this, we are celebrating this International Women's Day on this March 8th every year. And now let us see next article. Title says China gives green light for first downstream dams on this river Brahmaputra. So this article mainly focusing on dams that are going to be constructed by China on this river Brahmaputra. So in this context, I want to give you one homework. Please open your atlas and you have to see river Brahmaputra, where in which states it flows in India, and as well as some important tributaries of this river Brahmaputra. And also what are important sites, that is biological sites, which are mainly present across this river Brahmaputra. Okay, so this is very important from both environment point of view and even geography point of view. So now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. So context says that recently China came up with 5-year plan from 2021 to 2025. So this plan mainly approved or formally approved by government of China. So in this draft 5-year plan, they mainly gave some green light or green signal for first dams to be built on lower reaches of Yarlung Zangpo. So this is nothing but river Brahmaputra here. So in this 5-year plan, they also mainly focused on priority on energy projects. If you're talking about what is this lower reach, here lower reach means section of river in Tibet, that is flowing in Tibet before it is flowing into India. So whatever this section is there, that is called as lower reaches. Okay, so this lower reaches of Yarlung Zangpo river, that mainly flows in Tibet before entering into India. So what is cause of concern here? So whenever China is going for construction of dams along this Yarlung Zangpo river, so what is concern for India? So whenever China coming up with projects in this especially lower reach of this Yarlung Zangpo, then it is mainly leads to starting of a new chapter in hydropower exploitation of rivers. So if you see, there are many long pending proposals of these Chinese hydropower projects companies regarding building of dams on these lower reaches, so which are very near to India here. So now they got some green signal from government of China. So if you see some more details which are given in this article, it mainly says that, so for next 5 years, they are going for number of energy construction projects. Okay, and other major projects in this 5-year plan include construction of coastal nuclear plants and as well as power transmission channels, and they also focus on clean energy bases in upper and as well as lower reaches of this Jingsha river. So let me know where is this Jingsha river flows in comment box. Don't forget about this. So whenever I am giving homework, please try to do that because it will be finally beneficial to you people, not for me. Okay. So for next year's Chinese also planned mainly to complete this Sichuan-Tibet railway and also national water network. So in this 5-year plan of China, they are mainly focusing on how to develop infrastructure projects. Okay, they are coming up with hydropower projects and they are also coming up with some energy construction projects, and also they are focusing on clean energy bases, and as well as they are going for construction of coastal nuclear power plants and as well as power transmission channels. So in this way, Chinese mainly focusing on development of infrastructure for next 5 years. So if you are talking about hydropower projects, so mainly these power project on this lower reach of Yarlung Zangpo, mainly it is done by the state-owned hydropower company, that is Power China. So this Power China signed strategic cooperation agreement with Tibet Autonomous Region mainly to implement this hydropower exploitation. So if you see location of this project, exactly it is not said by this state-owned hydropower company, that is Power China. But in this context, he mainly talked about some great bend of Brahmaputra. So in this great bend, they are going to come up with this hydropower project. So this great bend of this Brahmaputra mainly located at Grand Canyon in Meadow County. So in this area only we can see Brahmaputra will turns into U-turn. Brahmaputra mainly takes U-turn and enter into India and enter into this Arunachal Pradesh exactly, okay, at this Grand Canyon. So this Grand Canyon which mainly turns sharply to flow across border into Arunachal Pradesh. As we know, Brahmaputra mainly started in this Himalayas and it flows towards east and it passes to Tibet and as well as some areas here, and finally it will enters into India by taking some U-shaped bending. Okay, so this bending mainly seen at Grand Canyon in Meadow County. Okay, so this is also called as Great Bend of Brahmaputra. And if you see here, in 2015, first hydropower project in Tibet that held by China, and there are three other dams that are going to be constructed in this Tibet region. They include Dagu, Jiksu and as well as Jiksha. Okay, they are being developed in upper and as well as middle reaches of this Yarlung Zangpo river. So what is concern here? So whenever any project that is built in upland here, okay, in upstream here, so whenever there is anything like if there is any damage to this dam or whenever there is increased flood in this area, then what happens? Sudden release of water that will be happen from these dams. So because of this, whatever areas which are present in this downstream, they will get impacted here. So in future we can see not conventional wars but water wars. Okay, so this is statement which is given by important political scientist here. So in future we can see water wars, not conventional wars. That means here in upstream areas they will go for building of dams. So what happens if there is any sudden impact or sudden event that happen like increased flooding, or suddenly if there is any damage to this dam or any landslides here, what happen here? So this dam will be get damaged such that there is sudden release of water into downstream. So because of this downstream areas, they will face large impacts here. So in this way in future we can expect water wars. Okay, so here concern here is mainly there will be some political impact on downstream areas. So what is significance of this project to China but not India? So what is importance of this project and why China, which is mainly going for this project here, means? So at this Great Bend, whenever they are going for building of this dam, so according to here Chinese hydropower project company, it mainly said that it had potential of about 70 million kilowatt hour. It is equal to more than 3 Gorges power station. So it have huge potential of generation of about 70 million kilowatt hour power. So because of this, it has some significant role mainly in realizing Chinese goal of reaching carbon emission before 2030 and to achieve carbon neutrality by 2060. So mainly to achieve this target of China, it is very useful. And if you see some facts regarding this river Brahmaputra, so river Brahmaputra mainly originates under name of Siang or Dihang from Chemukdang Glacier, which is mainly located in this Kailash range, which is located near Mansarovar Lake. Okay, so where is this Brahmaputra river originated? So it is mainly originated from this Chemukdang Glacier. This glacier is located in this Kailash range here, and this Kailash range are located near this Mansarovar Lake. So if you see some important tributaries of this river Brahmaputra, they include Dibang, Lohit, Siang, Bulhi-Dihing, and as well as Teesta, Dhanasari. So these are some important tributaries of this river Brahmaputra. So in this context, I want to give you next another homework. So please let me know which are right bank tributaries of river Brahmaputra and left bank tributaries of this river Brahmaputra. So in this way, you can expect some prelims based questions regarding this Brahmaputra in your prelims. Okay, so this right bank and left bank are important, okay, regarding especially prelims. And if you see this river Brahmaputra, it is one of perennial river, and it has several peculiar characteristics, mainly because of geography where it is flowing, and as well as some prevailing climatic conditions. So if you are talking about some climatic conditions, because of increasing global warming or global climate, then what happened, there is increased rate of melting of these glaciers. So whenever there is increased rate of melting of glaciers, we can say there is increase in level of water that is flowing. So if at all, whenever this Brahmaputra, which is mainly filled with sediments, then that will decrease carrying capacity of that river. So because of decrease in carrying capacity, that will also leads to flood in these areas. So because of this river, which is mainly based on some climatic conditions, we can also see some severe impacts that will be faced by people who are mainly seen in these downstream areas. And if you're talking about this river Brahmaputra, which is mainly flooded twice annually. So first, because of melting of Himalayan snow in summer, that will lead to increasing water levels in this Brahmaputra, that will lead to floods. And next one is due to monsoon flows in this area, we can also see floods in this river Brahmaputra. So you have to remember, in river Brahmaputra, we can see floods for twice every year. And one more important fact regarding this Brahmaputra here is, it is a most dynamic river. That means it can change course of action. So how this course of a river will be changed here? So if you see, for example, let us take river, it is moving in this course. But suddenly what happened, it is flowing in this hilly areas, right? So if at all any suddenly landslide happen here. So because of this landslide, what happened, there will be blockade of this river. So again, it will start flowing in another direction here. So in this way, what happened, course of river will be changed. So whenever course of river is changed, that will lead to floods in this area. Okay. So in this way, here it is a most dynamic river, and because of it is mainly flowing in geological active area in this Himalayas, we can see there is increase in the frequency of landslides. So because of this landslides, what happened, it may block river here, course of river, so that it will change direction and it will move in another course here. Okay, so this is one important concern regarding this river Brahmaputra. And if you see, whenever we are going for development of these dams in this ecologically sensitive area and as well as tectonically active area, so what will be impacts? So impacts here is, first one is, it will lead to degradation of basin. So as we know, river Brahmaputra, it is flowing in this direction. So whenever we are building any dams and whenever we are stopping flow of this river Brahmaputra here, then what happened, the areas which are dependent on water which is coming in this Brahmaputra river, that will be affected, right? So this is first cause of concern. And whenever we are building any dams here, so as we know, river, they are flowing with high speed and they have tendency to bring many sediments, right? So whenever they are bringing any sediments because of construction of dam here, so those sediments will be deposited in these dams, right? So because of deposition of these sediments in this dam here, so water which is released from this dam, which contains less amount of sediments, so because of this, it will also lead to degradation of basin of this Brahmaputra. So this is second important concern. And next one is, here as we know, this river Brahmaputra which contains fresh water. So in this fresh water, especially in this river Brahmaputra, we can see some dolphins, right? So freshwater dolphins, they are called as Gangetic dolphins, and also we can see Susu dolphins, they are present. So whenever there is river water that is affected because of construction of dams, that will also affect flora and as well as fauna in that area. As we know, if you see in this basin of this Brahmaputra, we can see ecologically sensitive areas, by hotspots are present in this area. So because whenever we are going for construction of these dams in this area, that will also affect flora and fauna which is present in this region. And next one is, it is also unfavorable region. As we know, Himalayas are tectonically active. So because of this, whenever we are going for construction of these dams in this area, they are not sustainable. So these are some important concerns regarding dam constructions across this river Brahmaputra. Okay, I hope it is clear. And now let us see next article. Title says panic grips displaced Rohingya in Jammu. So this article mainly focusing on this Rohingya. So we discussed about this Rohingya long back ago. So now this article gave me opportunity for revision of this Rohingyas. Okay. So this article is important regarding international relations, especially India-Myanmar relations and India-Bangladesh relations. And this article is also important regarding society. In society, it includes different sections of people like women, men, etc. Right? It also includes minorities. So under this minorities, Rohingyas are also one of minority here. So this article is important regarding this GS2 point of view also. And now let us try to understand this article in great detail. And we are also going to see some facts regarding who are these Rohingyas. So if you see context, it mainly says that Jammu and Kashmir administration, they rounded up over 150 immigrants as part of a verification process. Okay. So in this verification process, they mainly turned out about 150 Rohingyas and they asked mainly to go to police station for their verification. So if you see some official estimates, according to this administration, it mainly says that there are about 6,500 Rohingyas, they are staying in Jammu and Kashmir. So in this context, because of this verification process, now fear that increase in these Rohingyas, whether they will be sent back to Myanmar or not. So if they mainly sent back to Myanmar, as we know, Myanmar is under military coup now. So because of military only, they fled out of this Myanmar and they are taking temporary halt in India and as well as even in Bangladesh here. So whenever these Rohingyas, they are deported to again Myanmar, so again the fear of Rohingyas mainly raised here, whether they will continue their life in Myanmar or not, because Myanmar, it is under military coup now. So now let us try to understand some facts regarding this Rohingyas. Rohingyas, they are people, they are stateless. So they mainly belong to Indo-Aryan ethnic group who reside in Rakhine state of Myanmar. Okay, so this Rakhine state is very important because as we know, we are going for development of infrastructure projects in Myanmar. So one infrastructure project here is Sittwe Port. So this Sittwe Port, it is very near to this Rakhine state. Okay, and if you see some facts regarding this Rohingyas, they have their own language, own culture, and they say that they are descendants of Arab traders and other groups who have been regions for generations. Okay, who have been living in those regions for generations. And if you see regarding this government of Myanmar, here Myanmar mainly predominantly a Buddhist country. So in this way, government of Myanmar mainly denies Rohingya citizenship, and even these Rohingyas, they are excluded under 2014 census of this Myanmar. So in this way, it seems here only government of Myanmar mainly seems this Rohingyas as illegal immigrants from Bangladesh. So because of this, they are not given citizenship and as well as they are even excluded from 2014 census of Myanmar. So here what is issue regarding this Rohingyas? Here military of Myanmar in August 2017, they carried out systemic target campaign of terror and as well as rape and murder against this Muslim population. So because of this, there are many thousands of people, thousands of Rohingyas, they lost their life, and many of people, they fled to other nearby countries like Bangladesh and as well as India. So these are some important facts that you should remember regarding this article. And now let us see next article. Title says Jan Aushadhi is helping the poor, says our Prime Minister. So this article mainly focusing on one important scheme, that is Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. Okay. So now let us see some important details regarding this article and as well as some facts regarding this Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. So this will be very important for prelims. because we are celebrating this Jan Aushadhi Divas here. So because of this, you can expect some prelims based questions regarding this Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. So now let us see context first. Here context mainly says that our Prime Minister inaugurated 7,500th Jan Aushadhi Kendra at Shillong. So it is as a part of Jan Aushadhi Divas celebrations. So if you see context, it mainly says that we are celebrating this Jan Aushadhi Divas. So as a part of the celebrations of this Jan Aushadhi Divas, our Prime Minister inaugurated 750th Jan Aushadhi Kendra in Shillong here. So if you see some details regarding this article, it mainly says that this Jan Aushadhi scheme relieved the poor of high medical expenses, because under this Jan Aushadhi scheme it mainly provides some awareness, and as well as it will provide some generic medicines to people here. Okay, so if you are talking about this Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana, it is becoming a big friend to poor and as well as middle class families. So this is not my statement, this is a statement given by our Prime Minister. He also said that this Pariyojana becomes the medium to both service and as well as employment. So it is mainly helpful for employment generation also. And in this context, our Prime Minister also said that it also helpful mainly for promoting Atmanirbhar Bharat among women, because out of the 7,500 centers, so about 1,000 centers, they are mainly being run by women. Okay, so in this way it is also creating some large amount of employment in country, and it also we are also going for improving our production or increasing our production with increasing demand for these generic drugs. So these are some important details mainly highlighted in this article. And now let us see some facts regarding this Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana. So it is mainly one campaign launched by Department of Pharmaceuticals in year 2008. Okay, so implementing agency of this Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana here is Bureau of Pharma PSUs of India. So this Bureau of Pharma PSUs of India, which mainly comes under Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. So if you see some details of this program here, so this Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Jan Aushadhi Pariyojana stores, they had been set up mainly to provide generic drugs. So if you are talking about drugs which are available in market, so we can get branded drugs and we can get generic drugs. So what is difference between this branded drugs and generic drugs? So this branded drugs also contains this generic active medicament only, but they are mainly sold under name of brand. Okay, if you are talking about general paracetamol tablets, so these paracetamol tablets will be available in number of brands. First one is commonly we see Dolo is present, and as well as we see Calpol, and also we see Paracet 500. So these are some names of brands here, but if you see active ingredient, that is paracetamol. So rather than when we are going for buying of this Dolo, Calpol or Paracet 500, so when we are going for buying of this paracetamol directly, so cost when we are comparing with these branded drugs, it will be less. Okay, so in this way, as we know, hospital expenditure, that is out of pocket expenditure in India, it is about 65%. So it is very, very high. So mainly to decrease this out of pocket expenditure in India, we need to go for this generic drugs rather than that of this branded drugs. So if you are comparing with efficacy and as well as mode of action, that will be very much similar to that of this branded drugs here. Okay, so whenever we are going for using of this generic drugs, then it can reduce out pocket expenditure of medicines. Okay, so these are some important facts that you should remember. And now let us see next article. So before seeing this article, I want to make a small announcement on this platform. We came up with this current affairs package course. In this course, we are exclusively focusing on current affairs and also mains answer writing practice. So if you ask me what is importance of current affairs, so about 50 to 60% of questions, either it may be mains or prelims or even in interview, you can expect questions from this current affairs. And if you are getting any static based questions, they are also related to this current affairs. So mastering of current affairs, it is an important key mainly to clear this UPSC. And if you are talking about this mains answer writing practice, without proper answer writing skills, you cannot clear UPSC for sure. So on day 1 onwards, you need to focus on how to improve your answer writing skills. Okay, so finally in mains paper, you will get about 20 to 22 questions. So within 3 hours of time, you need to answer this 20 to 22 questions. So on average, you will get just 7.5 to 8 minutes for one question. So within this 7.5 to 8 minutes of question, you need to read this question at least 2 times, and you have to understand demand of question, and you have to come up with a framework of answer what to be written, and in that time itself you have to write answer. So for this perfection, you need to focus on answer writing skills on day 1 of your preparation. So we are providing this mains answer writing practice on every day. So from Monday to Saturday, we will be providing one mains question. On Sunday, we will be focusing on essay here. And if you are joining this course, we also provide you prelims practice questions along with video solutions. So in this way, this course is exactly focusing on what is demand of this UPSC. Okay, finally, I want to say one thing. So please try to join this course as soon as possible. This is highly beneficial and also economical. So we also came up with the free trial of this current affairs package to understand how this program will run. So details regarding that free trial is given in the description box. So please visit once. And now let's come back and let us see next article. Title says health first, physical prudence later. So this article mainly focusing on one important scheme, that is Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana. So in our PIB analysis, we discussed about this Ujjwala. So please don't confuse with that Ujjwala and this Ujjwala. So these two are different schemes here. Okay. So if you're talking about this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, mainly talks about LPG subsidies. Okay. So if you see central theme of this article, it mainly says that the government can balance LPG subsidies and ensure clean fuel consumption in poor household. So why this LPG cylinders is in news? So if you're following news correctly, so you know that price of this LPG cylinders have been risen. So what might be reasons for increasing of this price? So reasons here is because of increase in global price. Okay, so because of increase in global price of this LPG, because of that we also added, that is center also added some tax rate, also will added some tax on crude oil. So because of this, finally petrol, diesel and as well as even LPG cost that is raising day by day here. So because of this article mainly focusing on whether this is feasible or not, whether we need to focus on this fiscal prudence or we need to focus on the health of this poor households. So this article mainly says that yes, we need to focus on providing health for this poor households first, and later on we need to focus on this fiscal prudence. So this fiscal prudence that can be managed by government. Okay. So first we need to focus about why this is in news, and as well as some facts regarding this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, and also we need to see what is way forward. Okay. So if you see background here under this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, government is providing some subsidized LPG to poor households. But if you see, this subsidized LPG prices are increased by 50% in this year. Okay. So now one question which mainly arises here is, what would be impact of government flagship program of providing this subsidized LPG to these poorer households? So if you see under this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, since 2016 government provided LPG connections to about 8 million poor households, and mainly important aim of providing this LPG connections to this 8 million poor households here is to reduce women's drudgery and as well as to reduce indoor air pollution. So most of this time of these rural households, especially women, they spend large amount of time mainly in collecting this firewood for this cooking purposes. So because of this, whenever they are going for cooking by using this firewood, that will also leads to indoor air pollution. So because of this indoor air pollution, that is having some impact not only on women but also children who are accompanying women mainly during this cooking here. So because of mainly to address these problems, government came up with the subsidized LPG connections to these poor households. So under this scheme, government mainly provides subsidy of about rupees 1600 per cylinder here. So if you see some details regarding this article, it mainly says that under this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana, it mainly helped to expand this LPG coverage to more than 85% of households. And if you're talking and comparing with 2011, so in 2011 most of this cooking fuel used by this rural household, that is from firewood. But now about 1/3 of this Indian households, they are using LPG now. So if you see recent surveys, for example, Council on Energy, Environment and Water, so it mainly says that access to LPG cylinders in rural households that is increased, but only about half of them, they are mainly using this LPG for regular usage for cooking fuel, right? So there is only regular consumers, only about 0.5%, and many beneficiaries, they are not consuming this LPG in sustainable manner here. So what might be reasons for this limited use of this LPG? Mainly among this poorer household. So first one is, if you're talking about this price of this LPG cylinders, they are not affordable despite subsidy which is mainly provided by government here. So though government is providing subsidy here, so there is increased cost burden on family, especially these poor households. They are not affordable to go for this refilling of this LPG cylinders. And next one is, many rural consumers, they have access to freely available biomass. So because of this, they are very much difficult to move towards this LPG. Okay. So whenever we are using this firewood for cooking purposes, what are concerns? Your concerns here is that will increase indoor pollution, and also this biomass, whenever we are lighting for this biomass for this cooking, that will contribute about 30% of ambient particulate matter 2.5 at national level here. So if you are comparing with this level of PM 2.5 that is released in this burning of biomass for cooking purposes, it is higher when we are comparing with transport, crop residue, and as well as even coal burning here. So because of this, when we want to decrease this air pollution, we need to go for cleaner cooking fuel. Okay. So if you're talking about recent increase in subsidized LPG prices, they made more difficult for poor mainly to use this sustainable LPG used for their cooking purpose. So recently in our budget, government also said that about 1 crore new connections under this Ujjwala 2.0 that can be done in this financial year 2022. So this can be done only whenever we are banking on low global prices. So whenever global prices of this LPG is decreasing, then only we can go for subsidized LPG connections for more 1 crore people, and we can also go for reducing of its subsidy burden on our government. So whenever subsidy burden that is decreased, then only we can go for extension of this scheme for 1 crore per people here. So in this way, what is concern here? Concern here is, from government side, there is lack of transparency mainly regarding pricing and as well as subsidized LPGs here. So whenever there is lack of information about whether price of this LPG which is increasing because of global prices or because of LPG subsidy or not, here many consumers, they don't know about exact cost, whether subsidy reduction on global price changes or changing in global subsidy LPG prices that is leading to this increase in prices or not. So in this way, what is way forward? First one is, government can go for better targeting of subsidy. Your government can provide some uniform subsidy per cylinder to all LPG consumers, whether they are belonging to high income families or middle income families or low income families. Now government is providing uniform subsidy here. So here government can go for subsidy that should be given for targeted people like poor rather than rich. Here high income families, they can offer these prices. They don't need any subsidy from government. So in this way, we can go for cross subsidy here. That means we need to take full price from this high income families, and whatever income that we got, that can be targeted to this low income people, such that we can go for targeted subsidy system for this LPG here, mainly to maintain this sustained health gains among these poor households. And this one is, we can go for deduplication efforts. That means we need to weed out households with multiple LPG cylinders or LPG connections. That will help mainly to avoid subsidy. And next one is, subsidy levels, that could be dynamic here. It should be come up with different slabs. So different slabs for high income people, middle income people, low income people, etc. mainly based on previous year's consumption. So in this way, we need to continue support for economically poor people. So whenever we are providing some subsidies through this economically poor people, it is not merely a fiscal subsidy, but it is also a social investment here. Because whenever we are moving towards using of this cleaner fuel rather than using that bio waste, then we can also improve quality of health of women and as well as children, and as well as we can decrease the time of women who is spending mainly to collect this firewood for cooking purposes here. So this is gist of this article. I hope it is clear now. Now let us see next article. Title says railways and a question of transparency. So this article mainly talking about freight ways actually. So this article is important regarding economy point of view, which comes under GS paper 3. Now let us try to understand this article in a great detail. If you see here, if you are talking about railways, it is one of important mode of transportation. So this railways comes under important modes of transportation, that is important regarding geography also, that is regarding human and economic geography. So if you see about these railways, they are largest and also one of most crucial transport organization. But these railways, they are facing a large amount of serious problems now. So first one is here regarding finance. So if you are talking about finance here, there is no separate budget for railways now. So earlier we used to have separate budget for railways, and we came up with merging of this railways budget with union budget. So earlier we have union budget and railway budget, but now we have only one budget. So this railway budget is also merged with the union budget now. So recently there are some public statements about performance of this freight that came into picture. So these statements mainly says that first one is freight loading in January 2021, it is highest ever. So first statement is there is improvement of this freight loading that is seen in January 2021. And recent press report also said that freight earning in 2021 are likely to be more than when we are comparing to that of this 2019-20 despite of this COVID-19. So despite of this COVID-19, we saw there is freight earnings that are very much high when we are comparing with that of the last year. So what might be reasons? The reason here is freight traffic, which is relatively very much free mainly to run. So because of COVID-19, we imposed lockdown. So because of this, the regular movement of passenger services are halted or cancelled here. So because of this, what happened here, this freight traffic that have very free mainly to move here. So because of this, they went destination within time limits, and also transportation is very fast than when we are comparing to that of the earlier. Earlier, whenever any passenger train is moving here, so what happened here, whenever freight train is also to be moved on this same path here, so it will be sidelined here, okay. So because of this, what happened, this movement of this freight will be disrupted whenever there is any passenger train that will be moved here. So because of this, we need dedicated freight corridors mainly to allow free movement of this freight across country, okay. So this is the thing here. So one more problem here is operating ratio. So what is this operating ratio? In simple words, what are expenses and what are revenues? So when we are coming up with ratio of working expenses and as well as revenues, so this is called as operating ratio. So if you're talking about this operating ratio of this railways, artificially they came up with some false operating ratios. It is below 100%, okay. So why it is below 100%? They did not take accounts of this pension payments. So whenever pension payments are removed, we can see operating ratio, it is less than 100%. So if you are talking about official figures, whenever we are taking these payments, that is pension payments into account, so it is about 114.9% in year 2019 to 2020 and 131.49% in year 2020 to 2021. So if you see official figures, that is about 98.36 and 94.96 in year 2021. But when we are also including this pension payments into this operating ratios here, so it is very, very high. So if you see, first time ever now Indian Railways, they are unable to adequately provide for pension fund here. So because of this lack of pension fund which is generated by this Indian Railways, they are repeatedly sorting to loan from central exchequer mainly to meet shortfall here. So it is one of serious cause of concern. Now reason mainly shown by this Indian Railways here is because of COVID-19 we do not run these passenger trains here. So because of this there is loss to Indian Railways. But if you see why there is this much, like why there is inadequate fund of this pensions regarding this Indian Railways. So if you are talking about traffic revenues that had been unable to keep pace with increase in staff cost and as well as pension payments. So if you see, this article mainly says that there is increase in freight revenues of about 84.8%, right, from 2010 to 2019-20 year. So in these years we saw there is increase in freight revenue about 84.8%. but on the same way staff and as well as pension cost are also increased ahead, which is almost double to 157% here. So whatever revenue which is increased here, that is very much, that is half of increased cost of pension cost and as well as even staff cost here. So because of this, what is need, what is way forward? So we need to go for full commencing of this 2 dedicated freight corridors. So whenever we are going for dedicated freight corridors, we can increase revenue from this dedicated freight corridor such that we can compensate this pension fund. But if you see one cause of concern that here is, so most of these freight corridors mainly account for more than 15% of this coal transport only. So we are mainly moving towards alternate renewable energy sources, and as well as we are mainly going towards some clean energy fuels, right? So because of this, whenever we are moving towards this renewable energy sources, then there is also some pit heads that we may see in this freight corridors. Okay, so in this way now railways, they have to think seriously about life after this coal. Okay, so in this way there is one solution, like we can go for roll on and roll off model. So in this roll on and roll off model, we can directly fill these trucks with these materials. Okay, whatever material that need to be transported here, that will be filled in trucks, and these trucks are directly taken into trains, and these trucks will be directly transported here. So in this way we can go for roll on and roll off model of transporting these loaded trucks in this rail, in this dedicated freight corridors here. So what will be advantages? Advantages here is we can boost revenues, and as well as we can decrease overall carbon footprint also, such that we can achieve our goal under this Paris climate deal. Okay, and if you're talking about second one, that is a staff cost and as well as including some pensions to these people, so we need to go for corporatization of this railway production units. And next one is we need to go for detailed public survey or public scrutiny here. So we need to come up with annual report every year of this Indian Railways report. So that report named to be as Indian Railways report, and this report mainly placed in Parliament every year, and they need to discuss about fiscal and as well as financial performance of India, and that will be helpful mainly to identify challenges and as well as problems, and as well as we can come up with plans to overcome those challenges in this Indian Railways. Okay, and we need to go for transparency and as well as clarity, so regarding what need to be done regarding these plans, everything regarding these railways. So this is gist of this article. And now let us see next article. Title says now an expanded horizon of surveillance. So this article mainly focusing on lateral surveillance. So this is one important topic. You can expect some mains based question regarding this. What is this lateral surveillance? What are advantages? And whether we have any lateral surveillance programs in India in past or not. So this article mainly focusing on this lateral surveillance. So what is the surveillance? So if you want to understand in simple words what is this lateral surveillance, it means it is an act of watching over. Okay, so it is not, it is a peer-to-peer monitoring here. So if you have anything, any website or present here, for example, so we need to know what is information or what is content, what are videos that are mainly posting in that website. So if we have some Ministry of Information Broadcasting, right? So we have number of platforms that are present, right? For example, let us take, there is one ministry. Under this ministry, so it has some functions. So one important function of this ministry, it is to oversee what is content that is posted in this social media website. For example, let us take this example. So in this social media, we have different platforms. There are thousands of platforms. So these thousands of platforms, they will be posting some content. They will be releasing some videos on daily basis. So how only this ministry that will have overlook, that will have to regulate all this. So we need some agents or we need some regulating agencies, right? So whenever we are going for this regulating agencies also, there will be some biasness that will be seen. So in this way, now this lateral surveillance that came into picture. So in this lateral surveillance, there are some individuals rather than institutions, rather than institutions mainly, either it may be public or private, we are taking directly individuals mainly to keep track on one another. So if at all these individuals, they mainly found any information which is of mainly sexual in content, or whenever they are posting some pornography videos, or whenever they are providing some information which is causing some some threat to public order and law and order. So in that way, these individuals, they mainly inform to this ministry, and this ministry will give some guidelines to remove that content here within certain period of time. So this is lateral surveillance. So this lateral surveillance, it is an act of watching over. So it is a peer-to-peer monitoring, and this peer-to-peer monitoring, it will use some surveillance tools mainly by individuals rather than by agents of institutions which are mainly public in nature or private in nature. So in this way, we can keep track on one another here. So why this lateral surveillance is in news? Recently, Indian Cyber Crime Control Coordination Center, which mainly comes under Ministry of Home Affairs, it launched a cyber crime volunteer program. So what is aim of this cyber crime volunteer program? The important aim, it is to allow citizens to register themselves as cyber crime volunteers. Mainly, they have to play an important role of unlawful content flaggers here. So this program, that will help mainly law enforcement agency. So by using these individuals here, enforcement agencies, they will identify, they will report, and they will also send some guidelines mainly to that intermediaries to remove illegal or unlawful online content here. So this is to be launched all over country, mainly to control these intermediaries, right? So now we are going for test run in Jammu and Kashmir and as well as Tripura. Mainly they are going for this volunteers program, that is cyber crime volunteers. Okay, so this is a form of surveillance which mainly enables citizens mainly to watch over one another. It is called as lateral surveillance. So in this lateral surveillance, it mainly provides one platform such that everyone can watch each other. Okay, so this lateral surveillance, it is one of vertical relationship between person watching and as well as person being watching. So it mainly provides some power balance also. So if you see some background regarding this lateral surveillance, in US, it came up in year 1970s. So in 1970s, US came up with neighborhood watch schemes that increased community policing. So in this 1970s, the US government came up with development of apps regarding, for example, Citizen and as well as NetDoor. So these apps mainly led to monitoring people and their behavior, and also it became very easy mainly for monitoring of these people, and also this policy that helpful mainly for controlling of sphere of crime prevention. Okay, it also helpful for prevention of crime in US. So if you're talking about India, it is not a first time. In India, we came up with a C-Plan app in UP. So this app mainly to keep tab on these anti-social elements. So under this C-Plan app, mainly designed to receive inputs from certain designated individuals. So these individuals are mainly responsible for solving local problems regarding providing some information about why communal action that happened, regarding some land disputes, etc. So these individuals, they are mainly responsible for resolving problems at local level. And if you're talking about this lateral surveillance, it is mainly expanded during this pandemic lockdown as well. So regarding this lateral surveillance also, we came up with quarantine of individuals who mainly returned to India from abroad. That is especially seen in Kerala. So Kerala government came up with one document. In that document, they give list of people who came from abroad here, and because of this lateral surveillance, so these individuals, they mainly used mainly for this quarantine of these people who came from abroad here. So if you're talking about advantages of this lateral surveillance, so it has some emotional objectives. It will be very much helpful for community building. It will be also helpful for strengthening of relationship with neighbors, and is also helpful for social control of society here. So if you see why it is in news, because recently on February 25th, the government came up with some guidelines to control this content which is mainly provided by these intermediaries like social media and as well as some OTT platforms, etc. Right? So government mainly notified Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code Rules 2021. So it mainly expanded due diligence obligations by intermediaries, and also it expanded surveillance, and it also promoted this lateral surveillance also. So under this context, if any content which is mainly provided by these OTT platforms or social media or intermediaries, for example, if there is any content which is regarding this sexually explicit content or any harsh content that is leading to communal violence, or any data sharing timelines that mainly enables intermediaries mainly to remove, and as well as they have to disable access to such information in a short period of time. So in this way, this lateral surveillance, it is very important. Okay, So this is gist of this article. I hope it is clear. And now let us see mains question. Enlist important provisions of this Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana and comment on need of government LPG subsidies to ensure clean fuel consumption in poorer households. Answer should not be more than 250 words. Try to write this answer. So by this we are concluding today. I hope you enjoyed this lecture. Please subscribe to my channel and don't forget to like, share and comment my videos. And don't forget to visit this free trial of current affairs package. Thank you so much.